the initial deal was there was a post on LinkedIn that they said hire a kind person, or it's better to hire a kind person that doesn't know with experience than hiring an asshole. They didn't say asshole, but a mean person.
An experienced person with a bad personality.
Yeah.
Toxic.
And it kind of just brought me back to like when I was like my second year, not my second year, but my second job out of college, which had to be 25 years ago, a long time ago. So when I quoted it, there was a napkin right by the coffee maker that it basically said, what I thought it said was hire the smile, train the skill. So I posted it up there and I gave credit to my old boss. And he said, and then and he came back and said, well, actually I can't take credit for that quote. And he resaid what the quote was, but he had gotten it from Herb Kelleher, who's the founder of Southwest Airlines. He said he was sitting on an airplane next to him and said, hey, if you had one bit of advice for somebody with a brand new company, what would it be? And he wrote down on that napkin, hire the attitude, train the skill. So he took that and he posted it up in his, framed it, put it by the coffee machine. And it always resonated with me when I never even heard the story. I worked there for 6 years. Never knew the real story behind the background, but I always remember seeing it. It made a good impression on me, obviously. And the culture kind of, I think, did go, it felt that way. I mean, to me, it was, everybody has their ups and downs. There's no perfect boss. But, I have been very blessed, I think, with my whole career as far as who I've worked with and who I've worked for, in the aspect that there's always been kind of it's been small businesses, but it's always had that kind of mindset, a little bit of that attitude. And it could just be the way that I come off too. Like my attitude has always been towards that working hard, treating people the way you want to be treated. That's kind of how my parents raised me. And those are the kind of things that I think are important. And, and Sean continues with that culture here. And I think it trickles down that, kindness goes a long way. And I think what we were talking about earlier was how social media, I think, is kind of destroying that mindset. Because I really do think if somebody has something negative to say, they'll say things that they wouldn't say to your face. Yeah. Because if they did, you get punched in the mouth. But so now people can hide behind these screens and say things and I guess make themselves feel better. And it's
That's exactly it. It's like they get a dopamine hit off of being rude, which is really sad. Like I pity those kind of people that have to spread hate and negativity to feel good about themselves. And obviously, it says a lot more about them if they're going to leave that kind of comment under someone's post than it says about the person who posted it.
I agree 100%. I think and Gary Vee always says this too, is that he wants to, as opposed to reacting to them in a negative way, he's almost like wants to go out to them and say, feel sorry for you, brother. Or, obviously you're going through some rough times that you really feel like you're, out of everything that you could do, you took your time out to say something negative, that it's just, you just kind of feel sorry for, you pity those people. So his deal is always spread love, don't go bragging about, oh, I've got this, but right. Just, spread kind words to people, compliment people, be on their side, be an advocate for those that need it. And I think social media could be, it just kind of shows how human nature we are, that there's more assholes out here than they are, or at least the assholes are louder than the kind people, because I think there are a lot of kind people. They're just quiet.
Well, and also it's easier to hide behind a screen and to hide behind a username and a fake profile than it is to say it. That's just how people are feeling on the inside. And we talk about it all the time, the mental health crisis in the world right now. It's just it sucks. So it's easier for people to spread negativity, and it feeds, and it's just it's ugh. So I think let's hold ourselves to a higher standard. Like, that's how I think. I'm like, look, I am a kind person, so I'm going to hold myself to that standard. I'm not going to bow down to somebody, especially if they're going to leave something negative under one of our posts or one of my personal things. Like, I'm going to pay no mind. Like, you're only boosting my engagement. So.
Yeah, and look, and I think it's always, you get more bees with honey. I don't know if that's the saying.
Yeah.
But I always feel like it, like people work in a better environment. I noticed this when I would coach kids, like, you have the kids that you can yell at to make them do what they're supposed to do when they're run harder to base. Or you could say, hey, if you haul ass to base, you get this. You can kind of like, or if you lead with a compliment, I think that's a Zig Ziglar thing. If you lead with a compliment, it opens up their ears, and then you can kind of give them correctiveness on that too. But I always like to give credit where credit's due and make sure people understand how appreciative I am when they're working hard or they're putting in that extra effort, because I think they'll do it more when that happens too. But again, why not? I like to be appreciated when I do good things. So it's just one of those things that, I think you should be kind. If something's good happening around you, don't be afraid to say it. If your waitress is good to you, don't be afraid to not just leave a good tip, but tell them how much you appreciated it and why what they did was good, because it'll resonate with them. It might hit them a little bit better than you even notice. I think I saw a commercial where it was about like the negativeness and how it becomes like that person can't respond. Like, let's say your boss says something mean to you, but you can't say anything mean back. So basically, instead, you take it out on the next person, who then takes it out on the next person, who takes it out on the next person. And then I think at the end of it, somebody kicked a dog or something like that. It was a terrible commercial. But I know. I mean, I think it was about abuse. But I think, again, kicking the dog was like signifying, hey, let's be nice to everybody or else dogs are going to get kicked. And I don't know if that's really the message we should be sending, but I think the world would be better if there's less kicked dogs for sure. I mean, we rescue dogs.
And I think, too, that's something that it's not always easy for somebody to apologize, but honestly, apologies go a long way in today's society, because some people cannot bring themselves to say, you know what, I should not have said that. I'm so sorry that came out that way. That was not my intention, or I probably shouldn't have said that to you, and I'm sorry. That goes such a long way, because it means you're acknowledging your bad behavior and you're taking responsibility.
Accountability, I think, is missing in today's traits a lot. I think that's one of the things that, and I think that also comes from upper level. I mean, that's a whole different discussion. But when people make mistakes, they don't own them. They basically hide them or point the finger or say it's because of something else. It's even all the way down, from our president and government leaders and all of those guys that make mistakes and they just pretend like push it on. No, that was, you must have misunderstood, or whatever it is. It's just it's creating an environment where people aren't becoming. It's okay not to be accountable, and I think that's just not. If you do something wrong, just own up to it, and you'd be surprised at how people will respect you for at least owning the issues that you pointed out.
Yeah. Well, guys, let's hold ourselves to higher standards and just be nice. It's not hard to be nice, so let's try and do that more often.
Yeah, you look great today, Shannon, by the way. Doing a great job with social media.
Thank you. You too, Mike.